right, everyone, welcome to the show, TWRA's weekly podcast called Tennessee WildCast. It's Jason Harmon right there.
Yeah.
He pushes all the button, produces, does all that stuff I don't understand. But it's good to have you here. Glad you joined us. Please tell your friends about us because this show's all about you, because it's all about the agency that does stuff that you help pay for.
Yeah. We're here for you.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Hope 2017 is good to you. Hope it's good to everybody. And you get outside a lot in 2017 because there's a lot of reasons to get outside.
Yep.
Mark Gudlin's our guest. We'll get to him in a minute, but we need to talk for a minute.
Duck season's going on right now. Waterfowl's hot.
Waterfowl's going on.
Or actually, waterfowl's cold.
Waterfowl's cold. And we're in this week where we might get some more cold. And then I'm looking at that long-range forecast, and in Tennessee, it's back to the 50s and 60s. So I don't know how that affects ducks. Maybe Mark can tell us a little bit later.
Mark's here?
Jamie can give us a call, upstairs and tell us. A couple things before we get to Mark. Commission meeting going on next week in Memphis. A one-day meeting. A lot of stuff is going to be discussed over there.
At the Bass Pro Pyramid.
Yeah, if you just want to get out, you got nothing else to do. Next week, middle of the day on Friday, but they're going to be meeting there, and we'll report on it. You can always go watch commission meetings if there's something of interest to you. We stream them. You do them.
On our website, you can watch them at TWRA TV on YouTube, and the link to get to those locations are at the bottom of the page on our website. Just scroll down on the home page, and it's right there at the bottom.
My recommendation, do it that way. Otherwise, I'll see you at 9 o'clock at the pyramid or wherever.
Yeah.
Next week. But anyway, that's happening. It's just a one-day meeting as they roll into the new year, and we'll always keep you updated on that. Hey, I want to remind you, too, you want to get your family out, not this weekend, but the following weekend. There's the annual Sandhill Crane event over on the plateau. What's the name of the?
It's in Birchwood, Tennessee. Meigs County. Yeah.
And all over.
Hiwassee Refuge.
Hiwassee Refuge. If you want to go see Sandhill Cranes and just have a good time getting outside, that's a great place to go. Take your family. There's bird watchers everywhere. There's events all day long. There's music. There's I think they have the exhibit from the National Wildlife, the Eagle Foundation.
Yes.
They bring eagles out there and a bunch of other birds of prey, and it's just so cool. But that's going on, so check that out. Get your family out. You don't have to sit inside all day. You may not be a football fan or a basketball fan or any of that stuff. And some of us like Green Bay, though. We'll get to that a little bit, right? Green Bay Packers. Well, anyway, you got anything before we move on?
Not that I can think of right now.
All right. Well, just remind everyone, our website always got good information on it for you. We keep it updated all the time. Our Facebook is rolling.
Yep.
It's got stuff out there all the time. It's just the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency Facebook page, and it rolls all day long now.
And we're on Instagram now.
Instagram.
You can find us at TN Wildlife Resources Agency on Instagram.
Yeah, get that. Make sure you get our app. Our app's going to get even better here in the next couple months. A lot of work being done to it. We're going to have a lot of information out on it. And grab that app, put it on your smartphone, whatever your phone might be.
Yep.
And just keep an eye on us and what's going on that affects you. We do a lot of boating stuff out there, too. And we're getting into that time of year where people are going to start thinking about registering their boats.
Boat shows are going on. Yeah.
Boat shows are going to
start.
start.
Or will be going on.
Yep, all across the state. You can check out our calendar to find a lot of that stuff, or just go online and find where it is locally to your area. I know the one in Nashville starts here in a week or two downtown at the convention center.
There's an outdoor show happening in Kingsport this weekend, I think it is. Check our Facebook page.
Okay, yeah. So lots of activities out there. No reason to sit in the house. Anyway, let's introduce Mark.
Sure.
Mark is our first guest of 2017. Mark is the chief of Forestry, Wildlife and Forestry. And Mark, appreciate you volunteering to be on with us. He volunteered at the last minute when I called him and said, Mark, please be on with us. So I appreciate it. They're the chief of the Wildlife Division. You guys have had so much stuff going on this year, and we're going to recap some of that, what went on and how you think it went and all that. But there's one really big hunt coming on pretty soon. Of course, the deer season ends this weekend, the regular deer season on Sunday. Then there's this 5-day hunt that I think started last year. You can tell us, but it's only for a portion of the state, and it's only for antlerless deer. So what is that?
Right. The commission decided to try to add some hunting opportunity at the end of the regular season last year. So last year was the first year of this 5-day. It's an antlerless only hunt, private lands only, and only in Unit L. Unit L being all the counties in Region 1, Region 2. Last year, Lake, Dyer, Lauderdale and Tipton counties were not. They were in Unit B, but they are in Unit L. So it's all of the counties in Region 1 and Region 2.
Okay.
Again, it's only on private land, so WMAs or other public land, the hunting's closed. It's only antlerless deer. There was some confusion on all this last year, and that's why we're trying to make sure everybody's clear on the parameters for this.
And what is the definition of an antlerless deer?
Yes, one of the many changes that we had this year was the change of the definition of an antlered or antlerless deer. An antlered deer, previously could be an antlerless deer if it had antlers that were less than 3 inches. Now, the definition that we have now is if there's hardened antler that is visible above the hairline, then that is an antlered deer. So it's no longer an antlerless deer like it was before. So hunters want to, make sure you look over that deer real good. So the deer that would fall into an antlerless category that would be eligible on this hunt are going to be a doe, a button buck, or a deer with shed antlers.
Okay, which can happen this time of year.
Which can happen, of course, this time of year when they can be dropping their antlers.
Okay, look on page 22. It's how I know we're a distance, but here's the map that shows Unit L, okay?
Right, and one other thing that there were questions on last year, this is not just for landowners, so you don't have to be a landowner.
Yeah.
As long as you're hunting on private land and have permission, of course, then you're fine.
Okay, yeah, and I guess we're not creating a hunt just for the elite folks that got right.
Yeah.
It's got the
And last year we had almost 3,300 deer that were taken during this 5-day hunt.
Wow, that's a lot. Good deal. Does it help? You may already say it, Mark. Does it help? It's managing the antlerless population, or more specifically, maybe in this case, the doe population, or does it have anything to do with that?
Yeah, it tends to, help again. Trying to, we have a bag limit of 3 per day, normally in Unit L. Of course, the opportunity is to take 3 in a day. I still haven't harvested one in a day yet this year on the does, but
Are you
I
pretending
wouldn't
like
hold
you're
me out as a
quilling?
typical hunter.
Okay.
But it does help in that bumping up that doe harvest. Again, we're trying to achieve a more natural 1-to-1 sex ratio that better expresses the healthy deer herd and some of the traits, including rutting behavior and things like that hunters find interesting and exciting.
Okay, and so I'll recap here. Looking at this news release, this is on our Facebook page. Every county out there, Lee Wilmot's put that together and put it out there. It's also in our newsroom on our website. And I'm just going to guess, probably 30 counties, maybe a few more, maybe 40, but they're all listed out there. So what you have is at the 8th. The 8th is the last day of the regular deer season this year. The 9th through the 13th is that 5-day hunt in Unit L, antlerless only, and then the kids have the 14th and 15th to go out on a statewide hunt, and depending on whether they've bagged their 2 bucks or not, or 2 antlered critters, they can hunt for either one, right?
Correct. And there you would want to, I'm not sure, but again, check your hunting guide to make sure if you were looking to hunt on public land that it is
absolutely
open to that hunt. Yeah.
Yes, yep, got to be open with statewide hunts.
Right.
And so make sure about that, and get the youngsters out one more time. It's so warm, they probably would like to get out.
Yeah. I'll be at the commission meeting that Friday, so I don't know what my Saturday and Sunday will hold.
Oh, poor Tucker. So we'll see what happens. Tucker's young, though. He's got a lot of years. Anyway, Mark, cool hunt. I think a lot of folks, obviously, with as many deer that's been harvested, really enjoyed this hunt last year. Mm-hmm. All right. And that used to be a week that was just nothing going on, right? It was sort of a last week between, and then the kids had the last hunt of the year. All right, good deal. How do you think the antlerless hunt's gone this year? How do you think, what's the perception that you've got as far as how sportsmen did with it? Much discussion with law enforcement about it was an issue, or how do you think it went?
As far as
understanding the new antlerless law that got created this year, the definition of what an antlerless and an antlered animal is now.
Yeah, I think it's generally gone pretty well. I know, we've done some intense PR on it, try to let everybody understand what the new regulations are. I haven't heard anything from law enforcement, particularly on lots of people being written or warned on this. So all in all, it goes well. But some people, again, may not read the hunt guide or be plugged in, and they just assume things are like they were last year. But I think generally it's gone gone fairly well.
And we'll keep hitting it too to let them know it'll be back next year, right? No indication it's going away. It's the law.
We anticipate at this point that we'll have it next year.
Okay. What about the harvest reports? We've had some folks wanting to get into the harvest reports. I know things are changing. Are there some harvest reports out there on our website right now? And if so, what's your thought on what is available?
Yeah, of course, one of the great things on our website is you can go into the Hunter's Toolbox and look up the harvest by county, WMA, as a whole, for deer, bear, turkey. The thing that right now, if you look at the figures, it looks like we're down about 11% on the deer harvest, compared to this point last year. One of the big changes we had this year, as you know, to contend with was the change in our licensing vendor. And the problem with that it happened in the middle of our deer hunting season, and we had some glitches. So at this point, not really fully confident in those numbers. The report may be higher. There may be deer information that checked in that needed to be entered into the system, things like that. So we're gonna have to wait a little while till we have a little bit of better confidence in those numbers at the end of the season.
Talking to the hunters, then, if they go in there and look at it now and it looks like it's low, maybe check back in 2 months or 3 months and look at it.
We'll probably give an update at the February commission meeting.
Oh, it will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I anticipate doing that.
All right. So it may be just as, the normal harvest in recent years, 165, 168,000. That would be normal for recent years. So we may still see that even if it's not reflected right now. Maybe.
Correct.
All right. We'll see. We will see how that goes. All right. Also, on deer, it's a $2 limit. We've had that, 3 years?
It's been 2 years
2
now.
years. How do you think that's going?
I think it's generally been received pretty well. In reality, the vast majority of hunters don't take more than $1 in a season. It's a small percent that would, even when it was 3, that would take more than 2. But I think one of the things anecdotally that we've heard this year is there's been, for whatever reason, a lot of big antler deer taken, whether that's had a real chance to impact things yet. And, of course, that'll play right into the big deer news of the year being the Tucker buck.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the Tucker buck is going to it's going to be dry scored here in the next week or two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a date that's going to be set, and it's going to be dry scored. And when we find out, regardless of whether it's sitting as the world record or just one of the best racks ever taken, non-typical, we're going to report it here. But that's going to happen in the next week or two, Mark. Stephen Tucker's going to bring it in. I think there's going to be 5 people scoring from Boone Crockett. And we plan on taping a little bit of it, and we'll show some of it right here and see how it goes. But regardless of whether it stands as a world record, it's one of the best ever in the country here. And, Commissioner Cox over in West Tennessee sent me a series of photographs a while back from West Tennessee deer that were tremendous. And then Daryl Grandstaff sent me another shot or two. Like you said, anecdotally or coincidentally or whatever, there's some big bucks being taken in Tennessee this year.
Do you think it's because of the $3 limit being so conservative?
It's hard to say how much of it's perception and talk versus what's actually being taken. Again, is anecdotally, we don't have the numbers, the biological data compared from the deer that we actually do sample and take, antler points and measurements off of. So at this point, it's just good talk and discussion, and really looking at the year coming up. Anticipating, we had a lot of changes we already talked about with the deer season. We had the new deer units. We really need to keep things, and as we discussed at the commission meeting, need to keep things pretty static so that in about another 3 years or so, after looking at a 5-year period, we'll have a little clearer picture as really what was the impact of the change from going from $3 to $2.
So when you mean static, leave this alone and let it stay like it is for a while.
Yeah, I hope so.
And see how it goes. Okay. Well, it's interesting. It is coincidental that it's happened this year. Probably can't be based on $2 that was set the last year or two, but who knows? Maybe those bucks got by because we'll never know that for sure though, will we?
Right. You never know, just in timing of the weather, when the rutting was going on, the number of hunters being out there, that there's lots of variables that can impact that on a year-to-year basis.
Okay. And the shifting in the seasons this year, the units that we shifted, any effect on the way things are happening? Is it too soon to know that? Are we going to see more harvest, you think? Not putting you on the spot because you're not looking at every county and every numbers, but do we generally see larger harvest in areas that get added from, say, a Unit B to a Unit A?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask our deer
Okay, that's all right.
program leader about that.
All right.
Yeah.
But we shifted several over this year, right?
Yeah, typically when you have more opportunity, you're going to get a little bit of an increase in harvest.
And what does that generally happen, though, Mark? Why do we generally send something from one unit to the next one? What's the main thinking behind it?
It's a combination of things as far as what we see as the population being out there, crop damage, depredation permits we issue, road kills, problems with, again, the increasing number of deer in urban areas.
Okay. So mostly, somehow, it's got to do with a good deer population or maybe a heavy deer population.
Right. We think it can. The herd has grown in that county, can withstand more hunting pressure. Then we try to add it. We try to do it in a fashion where we don't have disjunct counties everywhere, and that's where we get our current 4 deer units.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Before we switch off of that, I want to go to small game here in a minute and maybe just a little bit of waterfowl with you, Mark. But anything you want to add on deer? Is there something we might be missing, a recap, update, something you want to point out?
I think we covered it pretty well.
Okay. Well, your guys have been on too, doing a great job coming down. Spent a lot of time with Chuck Yost.
Right.
Boy, I don't know where that comes from. But spent a lot of time with Chuck Yost a few weeks ago, really covering the CWD stuff, and he did a great job on it. And CWD, chronic wasting disease, is something, just in the 30 seconds with you, is something that y'all are very aware of, that you're spending a lot of time on and talking about.
Yes, that's going to continue to be one of our big challenges and concerns. Right now there's 24 states, 2 Canadian provinces where CWD has been documented to occur. We are in the process of increasing our sampling. We've done that already this year. Hopefully we're looking at different systems, and maybe including working with taxidermists and processors to be able to get more samples without it being such a big burden on our agency manpower, but to increase that sample size so that we can be more confident in saying that CWD likely is not here. Just
watching in a commission meeting, in a staff meeting the other day that you were in, listening to the biologists talk from the different regions and you and all that, many hundreds of deer got surveyed or are being surveyed this year for chronic wasting disease. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had a target of what previously had been about 200 to 300 that our sampling was at for a period of years, and we bumped it up to a target of 1,500, and we've exceeded it at this point.
Okay.
So that was a good effort by a lot of people in our agency to make that happen.
The goal is to keep CWD away.
Yeah, and there another change being some of the carcass importation restrictions, where we had, I believe it was 11 states that we had a lot of states where the entirety of the state was included in the carcass importation restrictions, and then it went to zones within the state as each state identified where CWD was. And this past year, the commission wanted to go the route of, and the agency, where the entirety of the state, if CWD occurs, just because of the lag time you can have in knowing if you find it in one place, like what happened in Arkansas, it showed up in an elk, showed up in a deer last October, and they did a lot more testing in that area and found out a incidence rate of about, I think, 23%. It was indicating that it had probably been there for at least 10 years. So that is why we're taking the route of caution, particularly with how much this could impact the deer herd if CWD shows up here. I know it's seen as overly restrictive by some hunters by trying to keep the carcasses from potentially infected animals out of the state, but it's important because once CWD is here, it's here, and we'll be dealing with it, and there'll be impacts to the agency and the hunters and how we manage the deer herd
I think
statewide.
most people that if they knew the amount of time they'd been spent restoring the deer in Tennessee and the value of it to hunters and the value of it to all the businesses that spin off from it, that most of them, the high percentage of them, would have no problem with the work that's being done and the importation that's going on. It doesn't tell you can't go hunting somewhere and bring deer back. You just got to do certain things to them before you bring them back.
Debone
That's
it.
right. It's
and
not
clean the
stopping
skull
you.
caps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't want to lose that here. You don't want CWD here.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, and I
So
remember
we have Missouri and Arkansas being two bordering states where the entirety of the state is closed. In Virginia, the zone was left because it was a lot farther away from the Tennessee border. But as of May 1st, unless the commission takes further action, the entirety of Virginia will also be included. And we have had over a dozen, I believe, instances of deer that have been identified coming into the state from CWD zones.
Barry Cross put up a short video about a month ago on one of the hunts that one deer was brought from Missouri, and the deer had to be confiscated, hopefully, and tested. Hopefully it won't come up as CWD, but that's the agency has to confiscate your deer if you bring it in and don't do it right. And that's expensive if you've gone somewhere and hunted out of town.
Right. So if you're going to be hunting any kind of antlered animal in member of the cervid family in another state, you really need to check what the importation, carcass importation restrictions are. Currently on our website, it's a place to go for that.
There it goes. And cervid means deer, mule deer, elk, moose. Those are the
Right.
critters we're talking about, right?
Right.
North America. All right, Mark. And I will say, and then leave that subject alone, that it's not, we're studying hard now, but I remember working checking stations probably 15 years ago and physically having to take off the heads of deer because we were looking at CWD even then. And our guys would get together and take all these deer heads to a location and dig out stuff in their brains. And it was difficult. It was hard work. So it's not like we just started doing CWD testing. It's been done for quite a few years.
We've been doing it for quite a few years.
Yeah. All right. Small game. We had somebody write us on Facebook recently and tell Jason that he wasn't doing enough on small game. He didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't really Jason. What are we doing for small game hunters in Tennessee, Mark?
Well, one of the things, of course, that we do with dove hunting is one of our more popular small game species. And so our management area people spend a lot of time preparing fields on wildlife management areas. And then we also lease the hunting rights for typically a period of 3 days or shorter from private landowners and try to fill the gaps on the landscape where people don't have to drive too far to go to a public dove field if they don't have access to private land. So that's one thing that we actively do. We also have private lands, wildlife habitat biologists that are actually cost shared with the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the USDA. They work out of their offices because a lot of people come to them for farm programs, technical assistance, and these wildlife habitat biologists meet with landowners one-on-one to try to give them advice on how to manage their property to improve it for habitat for all wildlife.
Every day.
And a lot
This
of
is what they
that's-
do. Yeah.
A lot of that's focused on quail and rabbits and deer and turkey, and a lot of things that benefit quail and rabbits also help deer and turkey habitat too. So there are a lot typically is a way to incorporate that all together where they get those benefits, and whether the landowner crops the land, timbers it, just owns it for wildlife recreation or pasture, there are typically ways that will fit into their management system that they're willing to accept to improve their habitat for wildlife. And we get a lot of compliments from a lot of people on benefits that they've seen landowners that
It's a big
biologists
program.
worked with.
You worked on it a lot before you became chief upstairs. You worked on this program a lot. It was kind of your baby, along with Clint Borum and a lot of folks that you worked with. Clint, I can at least bring his name up instead of his daddy's. But it's a tremendous amount of work. These guys show up every year at the annual convention of the National Wild Turkey Federation, and they explain what they're doing there along with the other places they go. But they spend a tremendous amount of time designing plans, going across the state, and creating a habitat, helping create habitat that might be the answer to quail. No?
Yes. It's one target we're going to, and of course, and talking about other small game efforts, we have 4 wildlife management areas that serve as what we call our quail anchor areas, that we're trying to do as much as we can possible to have a good population of quail on those areas. And then we have a private lands focus area around that where we're trying to increase our efforts in targeting publicity to private landowners in that area so we can unfortunately, we've lost so much habitat and just the nature of the intensity of our land use, the way we manage our land right now. Quail just are never going to be as abundant as they used to be. But we're trying to keep good, sustainable populations on portions of the landscape that will still support quail populations.
Okay. We get that big old bird back, and we do so well with it, but that little bitty bird is such a pain.
Yeah.
But
everything likes to eat it.
Everything does. Everything does like to eat it. If we can hit one, Mark. If we can just hit one. All right. Okay, but there is work there, and if you don't have land, though, if you're not a private landowner, we also have wildlife management areas. Do we do small game management on some of our WMAs? On these, we got hundreds of thousands of acres. Is some of it put aside for the small game person?
Sure. And some of these, a lot of times when they have somebody call, where do I go quail hunt? And, we can
squirrel hunting,
direct them to,
hunting.
Right, on our wildlife management areas. And, if they're near, there's a lot of wildlife management areas, let's say even if it's a waterfall area, they've got upland areas, and many of those area managers are trying to make sure that they manage them in a fashion where, it's maybe not known as a quail WMA, but for the hunter that's willing to seek out these areas and do a little bit of scouting, they often can find where there's a area with some quail in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, lots of those areas. And small game season, of course, going to open when we're talking about grouse. I mean, not grouse, we're talking about quail. We're talking about squirrel, and we're talking about rabbit, just for this, all open to the end of February, correct?
Yeah, there's 4: squirrel, grouse, quail, and rabbit.
Okay, grouse
till the end of February. Now, with the exception of that, on wildlife management areas closed down to quail hunting on January 15th.
Okay, and grouse has some delineation there. You need to look in the guide. Of course, if you're hunting on the other side, you're probably not going to see one anyway. But do we have some grouse in Tennessee in the eastern part?
Yeah, we still have some grouse, but they're very scarce. These days across the southern Appalachians, and this is southern.
You got to really want to get out there and get them.
Grouse range.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned squirrel. That's one great opportunity if we have an underutilized animal. One we typically don't manage specifically for. We're a big hardwood state, and we have lots of squirrels. There's lots of opportunity to go hunt, and I'm waiting to go myself.
You're a squirrel hunter and a half. By the way, Mark is a Wisconsin native. Been here forever, though. He might as well be a Tennessean. But every now and then he goes back to Wisconsin, and I got to go with him 15 years or so and had a great time and watched Mark get his limit of grouse only because I missed grouse number 5 for him. And he made a great shot on it and got a limit of grouse. It was fun doing that, Mark. And, of course, you're a Green Bay Packers fan. And
go Packers.
We'll see. I am too. But I hope they do well. But if we had grouse in Tennessee like you have them in Wisconsin, you and I probably would spend more time out there together looking for those things.
Yeah, we probably would. But even in Wisconsin, grouse habitat's been declining across many of the grouse states. And grouse in the northern part of their range tend to follow about a 9 to 11 year cycle. You'll have your peaks. And having hunted there for over 30 years, and each successive peak is getting lower. So even the good years aren't quite as good as they used to be several decades ago.
All right, and then we're gonna run out of time. There's so much more I could talk to you about, but I don't want to say on that hunt. You took me one year where it was low, and we hardly even shot. But you were considerate of me and took me back when it peaked. And it was like from the time we got there till we left, either you and I were having action, including some woodcock action, which was a lot of fun, and we have those in Tennessee. We got a minute or less than that? Mark, I was going to ask you about waterfowl. Jamie came on and did a great job, but waterfowl hunting will continue to almost the end of February when we got a light goose season, so a lot of hunting still to go in Tennessee?
Sandhill cranes also.
Sandhill cranes.
Yeah, and, things are pretty status quo on that right now. There's water. Birds moving in as we get rain and cold weather coming in, so there ought to be some good hunting coming up yet.
Okay, all right. And next year we'll talk more about Sandhill cranes because it's going to be open more on a statewide level, correct?
That's what we're anticipating.
Yep.
All right. Music coming up, or are we just done?
We're out.
We're out here. Mark, thank you for your time.
Anytime.
All right, guys. Watch our show anytime you want to out on our website. And
Yeah, on our website, TWRA.com, or on our main page, TNWildlife.org, and listen on iTunes. You can download us right there on iTunes and listen to the show anytime. Watch the show anytime on YouTube or TWRA TV.
All right. Sing, do some kind of music, do something.
Thank y'all. We'll see you
everybody.
next time.
See ya.
Appreciate it.